unfairness of it all. It is. It's outrageous. It should not be happening in the greatest and most developed democracy in the world. And you know what's going on now? The cable networks, MSNBC and CNN, are waiting to make the call because they want Fox to do it. They are demanding that Fox proclaim, you hate Fox now? Well, they want Fox to make the call. They are waiting. They could do it right now if they wanted to project Biden, because they got Pennsylvania and they've got Arizona. CNN has not projected Arizona. Fox and AP are the only ones that have, but they could. And they could put Biden over the top. They want Fox to do it. They are convinced that if they beg enough that Rupert Murdoch will do it. They'll do it. Fox has not proclaimed Biden the winner. They want him to project him the winner. Fox has him at 264. They want him to give him whatever it takes. Nevada. You understand this now. They want Fox News to do it because Fox News is supposedly Trump's network. They want total repudiation. They want they want everything that made Trump successful to turn against him, including you. They want you who voted for Trump to turn against him. They want Fox to be the one to call the race, to put Biden over the top. They want anybody and everybody who had anything to do with electing Donald Trump president to have to be the ones to proclaim that he has lost. They want everybody who was on Trump's team to abandon him. And they really want that of Fox News. I mean, Jake Tapper is begging them. Jake Tapper on CNN is begging the Murdochs to put profits aside and do what's right for America and proclaim Joe Biden the winner. That's why these other networks haven't done it. I guarantee you they're waiting for Fox to do it, and they are convinced that Rupert Murdoch and his sons will do it. You doubt me? That's what they're waiting on. They don't want anybody to ever try what Donald Trump did here. This is message day. This is message time. If you try to come in here and bust up the Washington establishment, the deep state, you're going to have happen to you what Donald Trump happened. You're going to get destroyed. You're going to be totally repudiated. You're going to be sent out of town in the most embarrassing state you have ever lived in. They are moving in for what they think is total destruction. And it is. It's outrageous. Should not be happening. Greatest, most developed democracy in the world. I share those feelings with you. You're not alone. You're not crazy. There's millions and millions are with you today. The exact same boat. But despite this, there's one thing that doesn't change, and as
media gotten a fire whoever
this country is actually moving conservative. That's why the presidential election is so strange.
Secretary of Defense. Welcome back, Rush Limbaugh and the Excellence in Broadcasting Network. And a reminder, this for me is treatment week. Actually, folks, last week was supposed to be treatment week. And I moved it by 7 days with, of course, the acknowledgement of approval of the medical team to this week so as to be here during the election and its aftermath. I'm glad that happened. The odds are, I always try to make it back at least one day during treatment week. And I've been fortunate the past couple of treatment weeks, and I've actually made it back on Thursday and in one case Friday. Don't know about this week. I have planned, we got guest hosts lined up for every day, starting with Mark Stein tomorrow. And he's even on standby for today in case we had to skedaddle out of here early because of the weather. You know, we've had this tropical storm go scooting by, and it was something that had to be watched because I got to get where I'm going. And if it meant I had to leave yesterday, then that would have put Stein in here today. It's worked out great so that we have a normal day today and a normal treatment week. So we have 2 hours here and make the most of it. The circumstance with where we are, I've got a couple of calls up here. In fact, I want to give me line 3. I'm going to take this blindly. Is he still there or not there? He's there. On paper, it looks good. Sherman, I don't know how he's going to sound, but it looks good. But it's something I want to bounce off anyway. It was a point that I was going to make anyway. So let's grab Sherman, use him as the transition. Sherman is in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Sherman, thanks for calling. How you doing, buddy?
Yes, sir. Doing great.
Thank you.
And I'm glad you're with us today, and I really appreciate you taking the time to come in when you could have gone for treatment week. I really think you need to hear this, and I think the president needs to hear this. Everybody is taking the wrong message from this election, and they're missing the message, and they're angry and demoralized, but they need to stop being angry about it. I'm 48, and I actually feel better about the future of the country than I have in a very long time. This was not a blue wave or a wipeout or a repudiation of the president. The Republicans kept the Senate. Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, Susan Collins won for re-election.
Hang on just a sec. Now, I don't want to throw cold water on anything, and I agree pretty much what you're saying. It was not a blue wave. The country's not gone socialist. The country did not embrace Joe Biden. That's not at all what happened here. That's your point, right?
Yes, sir.
But we still had an election stolen. We still had. Now, I agree with your point, too, that anger, you're going to have some of that, but it should not be the guiding emotion. But on the Senate races, they're still trying to steal those, Sherman. In Georgia, one of the reasons why they have been holding off on giving that state to Trump and why they've been looking more votes is to force runoffs in both of those Georgia Senate races, which they've now done. If they take those two, they run the Senate because that gives them Kamala Harris as the 51st vote as vice president. And that means the blue wave does become the guiding principles of this country.
Yes, sir, but I don't think it's going to happen. And more importantly, I think the fact is that the president saved the party, and he grew the party, and he showed us the way by rebuilding it into a party of the working people. And now we need to carry on his work, whether or not he survives this ambush that happened to him in Philadelphia and Detroit and Milwaukee. But we have a 6-3 majority in the Supreme Court, and we've got Sidney Powell and great people working on the legal fight, and hopefully they'll win. But even if they don't, the fact is that we have not lost the country, and I think, as a matter of fact, the complete opposite is the case. And I just want to make sure you know that and are confident about that.
I totally do. My point today has been to focus on how the investigation of the fraud is handled and how the information learned in the investigation is then disseminated and what the purpose of the investigation is in the first place. I think it needs to happen because I think fraud cannot be allowed to stand. No matter what we say about it, you can say, well, look, it took them cheating to win. I feel really good about the country, folks. It took them cheating. Well, we can't leave it at that. And don't take this personally, Sherman. We can't leave it at they stole it. If they stole it, then that becomes institutionalized, and they'll keep stealing them. It has to be stopped. The effort has to be made to uncover what happened and then inform as many millions as possible. We cannot. You can talk about all the great things Trump did for the party, great things for the country, but if the left is permitted, by virtue of what happened here, to change institutionally the presidential election system so that they can steal it every 4 years, it doesn't matter. That cannot be allowed. We cannot permit that to stand. Whether the investigation shows Biden won or not, we want to know whoever won did so legitimately. There cannot be a circumstance where 70 million Americans don't trust it. And that's where we are. Now, you're calling and saying, we need to look on the bright side. We shouldn't be mad about it. Trump redid the party. Here's another thing, Sherman. I don't know if you've noticed, but the Republican Party, as made up of, say, the Never-Trumpers, they're going to go in there and they're going to try to take it back. They're going to try to reconstitute the party to what it was before Trump. You're saying, good luck. They ain't got a prayer. The American people, 95% of the Republican Party support Trump. That is the party. Yeah, you say that. But the battle is going to take place. All of these things that you've cited have happened. Trump reconstituted and redefined the party. He took it over and remade it in his own image. No question. Trump is not going anywhere no matter what happens in this election. He's going to do something. I also believe, I got a note from a friend of mine, said, Rush, Trump has earned our support despite his ups and downs. And my favorite movie, Rush, The Wild Bunch by Sam Peckinpah. You know, when they turn on one of their own, William Holden, the star of the movie, loses his temper. He yells at these guys, when you side with a man, you stay with him. If you can't do that, you're like some animal. You're finished. We're finished, all of us. If you haven't seen The Wild Bunch, you really ought to watch it. It's a great movie. Sam Peckinpah was from Fresno, or is from Fresno. But it's all about loyalty in hard times. And my friend is pointing out here, you side with a guy, we've sided with Trump, we stay with him. If you can't do that, you're finished. We're finished. We all deserve to stand by Trump as he moves forward. When I stop and think of this on human terms, the Trump family, they're fine people to have been maligned and to have been disabused, to have been so mischaracterized and lied about, to have their character assassinated. This is the finest bunch of people you'd ever run into. They're a great family. None of Trump's kids have had problem one. They all work in the family business. They've all had to work their way up in the family business. They've been given nothing other than that opportunity, which is fine. That's what all families try to set up for their kids. They didn't have to do any of this, and they did. And it wasn't just Trump himself, his whole family, from his wife to his daughter to his sons to the in-laws. They were all in on this, and they were doing it for us. They were doing it for the country. They saw the country deteriorating. They didn't like it. They wanted America restored to its original promise of our founding. And for that, they end up under attack mercilessly for 4 years, every day, multiple times a day. And they didn't have to do it. And now they knew they were going to win this election. That's why they're shocked. That's why they're stunned. They knew. We knew. You do not draw 55,000 people to rallies while your opponent's sequestered in a basement. This just doesn't happen. But it did, because the Democrats were 6 months ahead of us in setting up these systems. And they run the electoral apparatus in these particular precincts where all this stuff happened. So it has to be investigated. It has to be discovered what happened. The American people need to know, for the future and the sake of the country, not for the Trumps. They would be beneficiaries of this if it is found that the fraud was wanton or rapid and all over the place. But this needs to be done for the sake of the Constitution. This needs to be done for the sake of the rule of law. It needs. If it isn't, we're on the downhill side, and the country's got a much harder task and job ahead of it in surviving as founded, and it must survive as founded. But the human side of this, what was done to the Trumps in order to bring this whole result about, hey, I know, don't cry about it, Rush. It's politics. Don't get mad about it, Rush. I know Don't get mad, Rush. There was no blue wave. I know there was no blue wave, but what if they can effectively create the illusion that there was by virtue of cheating and fraud? We know the president got more votes, but what if they succeed in taking them away? We didn't lose the state houses, the Senate? Not yet. They're trying to steal 2 Senate seats in Georgia with these runoffs. Chuck Schumer is not finished. You think they're just going to sit idly by and have Biden and Kamala Harris in the White House and not be able to do anything because they don't control the Senate? That's why this cannot be given up. This effort cannot be stopped. It's a two-pronged effort. Stop the ongoing fraud, stop the ongoing cheating, and then nail down that which has happened. And it's hard work, and it's going to take a while. But it must be properly motivated. And I'm not trying to sound like a Miss America pageant contestant here when I say the purpose of this is not so that Donald Trump gets a fair shake. This should be done so our Constitution survives, so that the institutions and traditions which have defined our nation's greatness survive. Because those are the institutions under assault. Those are the things that Democrats are attacking in order to take power that they may not have and likely did not win at the ballot box. I've had so many emails from you about Fox News. I've had so many emails from those of you who are livid and angry, starting with the Arizona call, starting and then continuing with other things. And excuse me, I think that there's a simple explanation here. There's a key rule I've always believed in media, which is what I'm in. I'm in talk radio. And it actually goes back to the William Holden quote here in that movie, the Wild Bunch. You do not turn on your base. You do not turn on your audience unless you've had some kind of awakening. What you just don't you don't do it for the sake of the approval of your enemies. You don't turn on the people who got you where you are because you would rather be friends with other people. You just don't do it. And that appears to be what's happened here. We've got Donna Brazile all over the place. We've got everybody on a talking head interview. Half of them or more are New York Times or Washington Post Democrat media people. The Arizona call. Some even with the Chris Wallace debate think is an anti-Trump move. But throughout all of this, the media can't turn talk radio, can they? The media has been desperate to blow up talk radio and Fox News. They've wanted to draw up Fox News ever since Fox News was founded and created. And they've wanted to blow talk radio up since before that. They've wanted to destroy me and my character and that of anybody else who hosts a talk radio program. Why is it, do you think? It looks like they may be having some success now in blowing up Fox. I mean, you've got the wife of one of the Murdoch brothers tweeting out, we did it, we got rid of Trump, we did it. I think it was Lachlan Murdoch's wife. So it looks like they may be succeeding in turning portions of Fox against its base. Let me tell you something, folks. If the people running Fox succeed in destroying the distinction that Fox has from the rest of the media, they're going to destroy Fox. If they are successful in taking away from Fox the things that distinguish it and make it appear different from the rest of the drive-by media, what do you think is going to happen? The reason they have not been able to do this with talk radio is We do not stab our audience in the back. We do not turn on our base. We remain principled and consistent. From me on down to everybody who does this on the conservative side, we are not apologetic. We do not seek the approval of people that don't like us. It's very strange how no one has figured out why it is talk radio that remains powerful, popular, unassailable. It's not difficult at all if you know where to look.
I'm sure you remember that. They stopped counting the votes. We're all asking ourselves why. Well, we know why. We're asking it rhetorically. Election night Tuesday at about midnight on the East Coast, Trump led in all the battleground states by decent margins. The betting odds, betting markets, more than 75% for Trump to win. Then for some inexplicable reason, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Nevada all seemingly stopped counting votes at the same time. In unison, they took a pause at around 1 a.m. None of those states reported any additional votes for the next 3 hours. Somehow, though, sufficient ballots were found. Ballots. We don't even know if these are votes. They found ballots. Somehow sufficient ballots were found to put Biden over the top in several of those states, with more movement toward Biden coming in. The rest for those found ballots, many of those bunches of ballots found were exclusively marked for Biden, which is a statistical impossibility. Then we have the turnout. The turnout in those swing states far exceeded historical norms. That's another statistical anomaly and a clear indication of ballot harvesting and voter fraud. There's no such things as coincidences, especially in politics, and I learned that during the Clinton years. So Trump was up in those swing states by big margins, with on average less than a quarter of the votes remaining to be counted. That Biden was able to make up the difference in those states without a get-out-the-vote effort seems to me to be statistically impossible, yet he did it. So the title of his piece is not even close to being over, not by a long shot, even though it's from yesterday. The notion that the Democrat Party is a majority party is a myth. I've been telling anybody who would listen, I've been trying to make this point all year. I've been trying to make this point the past 3 years. The Democrat Party, contrary to what the media want you to believe, the pollsters, and all, it is not anywhere near majority Democrat or majority radical left. The Democrat Party is the only way they can win is to effectively eliminate elections. That's what they've done here. Do you realize this? Do you realize what they've literally done here is eliminate elections by coming along and running them this way? This is not an election that has taken place here. This is after the election, making adjustments in it based on what they need. That's what's happened. And this is a forerunner of a prediction that I have been making for a couple of years now, that the Democrats' real desire way down the road is to eliminate the need for elections. That's the one thing they don't control in all this. It's the one thing where they lose, and they are not going to tolerate that. And if they can get hold of the vote counting process, if they can get hold of the ballot harvesting process, if they can get, like they have here, then elections are really not what determine who wins and loses. And that's exactly what they want.
Reversed it.
The notion that they are a majority party is a myth.
I said it was Lachlan's wife, and I think it was James Murdoch's wife. The story is that Lachlan Murdoch is conservative. That's his story. All right, Marty in St. Augustine, Florida. I'm glad you called. Welcome to the Rush Limbaugh program. Great to have you here. Hi.
Hey, Rush. Thanks so much for taking my call. My husband brought me to Rush, so to speak, 30 years ago, and been listening ever since. And we just want you to know we're really thankful for you and that you've been able to continue to do your show, and we're praying for you.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Me too.
Yeah, thanks. I just 2 quick points. I love the idea about the election czar. We happened to see Sidney Powell yesterday on Fox Business, Maria Bartiromo's show, and she laid out some really detailed information about where the investigation is going.
Right, I've got that data coming up. It's pretty comprehensive. It's pretty impressive what she's already found.
Yes, and one thing that we had not heard about that surprised us was about this software company. Apparently, some of the software used in tabulating the votes.
It's out there. This is all in the hopper. This is exactly the kind of stuff. I've seen it. I know it's out there. This is the kind of stuff that needs to be collected, investigated, looked at, and reported on. And we need to get to the bottom of it, and so that it doesn't remain just anecdotal. Hey, did you hear about this software? We need to find out the truth about it. We need somebody to look into it and find out, is there something there?
Exactly. So I was impressed with Sidney Powell. I like her anyway, and I didn't know whether you would think she would be a possible candidate for the czar position if it goes that way. That was one point. The other thing, we also saw Mark Levin last night, and he mentioned that we have a Supreme Court for a reason. You know, as an average voter, you just feel frustrated because kind of gnashing your teeth, what can we do? But he mentioned that the Supreme Court's got to step up and enforce these election laws, and we're just praying that that's what's going to happen.
Somebody's got to take the case to them, and then they can. They have to want to hear the case, and that's what I think he's saying. They got to want to hear the case because the case will be taken to them. And now, you know, John Roberts could have shut it down before Amy Coney Barrett when the court was 4-4. Now it's not 4-4; it's 5-4. The odds are greater, I would think. We'll be back.
We love you. We are praying for you. I lit a candle for you at Mass today, so we're with you.
I appreciate that. I really do. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's a question or a comment, but I felt like Britt Baer when I heard you in the beginning, and I'm just feeling like you were saying how, you know, it's great we won seats in the Senate and the House, and I just felt like, so what? Because if we don't win the presidency, if they're able to steal it, they're going to eventually be able to steal the election in the Senate and the Congress. And I feel like it's because of Trump that they got those votes. I don't think the people are behind the Republicans. I think the people are behind Trump.
Exactly. Yeah, I spent a lot of time making that point yesterday.
Yeah, I heard you. But a few days ago, you were like, don't worry, we got this. And now it felt like you were saying, well, if we don't win it felt like you were saying, well, if we don't win the presidency, look at what we've done. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. I vote. No, you
misunderstood the context. I'm glad I'm trying to ask a question. How can... They're all saying Trump, look, I'm reacting to the left. They're waiting for Fox to call this. Do not doubt me. They think it's over. I'm reacting. I'm simply saying here we go. It's a hypothetical. How the hell can the president lose an election where all this other stuff happens for the Republicans? They gain seats in the House to go 50-50. They hold the Senate. How does it work? I'm essentially saying I don't believe that Trump lost. But that's what they're asking us to accept. What they want us to believe is the opposite of what you said. They want us to believe this country voted for Republicans but against Trump. It's the exact opposite. And I'm simply asking, how in the world can they say that the people of this country voted to send Republicans to the House in equal numbers with Democrats and to hold the Senate and reject Donald Trump? Now, if you heard me say that and that makes you think I think it's over, that's a mistake. Bad word choice on my part. I'm simply saying these two things don't go together. Now, they're trying to tell us, and they're trying to set the stage for as many people believing as possible that the people of this country chose Republicans but rejected Trump. As you just pointed out, you can't divvy it up that way. The people of this country voted Trump. And that's why they're going to get gain seats in the House, the Republicans are 50-50 in the House, and maintain the 1 to 2, maybe 3 seat majority in the Senate because of support for Trump. I'm trying to warn everybody they're trying to set it up so that it's the Republicans that did okay, but that Trump was rejected. They are, folks, they're poisoned and deranged with Trump hatred. They need Trump repudiated, even if they have to lie to themselves about it. And that's what they're trying to set up here. So I'm simply asking a question that, to me, defies logic. The answer defies logic. How can the Republicans do this well everywhere else, and yet Trump is on a losing end in these states like this? It doesn't make any sense, is what I was trying to say. Anyway, I'm glad you called, gave me the chance here to straighten it out. Kristen, we will be back. Okay, folks, we got other anomalies out here. Record low enthusiasm for Biden in many major cities. He lost support, lost votes in New York City, Chicago, and Miami. 200,000 votes in New York City, 260,000 votes in Chicago, 7,000 votes in Miami, but Atlanta, Detroit, Milwaukee, Pittsburgh, he gets enough uptick there in those 4 to win. In their projections, I'm not saying you gotta be cool here.
Surpassing all.
And we are back. Rush Limbaugh and the EIB, the Limbaugh Institute. We are
to have you, sir. Hello.
Hey, Rush, very long-time listener here. I just wanted to comment on the psych op that was ran by the media. One thing I noticed was the coordination before the election. Days before, every media organization was saying, hey, you're going to think on election night that Donald Trump has won. You're going to think this. But you've got to wait till the votes come in the next few days, and then you're going to see who the clear winner is. And what was interesting about that is they emphasized the fact this isn't fraud. This is just how this election is.
What do you mean it just isn't fraud? It's how it is.
That's what the media was saying. Don't think this is fraud. They kept saying days before the election, don't think that this is fraud. When the votes come in after Election Day and you thought that this is just how this election is this time. And that was kind of the psych ops of all the media, was trying to condition everybody. You're going to think Donald Trump's going to win. But what you're really going to see is that Biden's going to win days later. You just have to have patience, and don't let anybody tell you it's fraud, because it really isn't.
Even though it was.
Even though it was.
Right. So your point is that they ran a psycho ops operation on everybody, telling them what was going to happen, and then it happened.
And then it happened, and they conditioned people to let them know this isn't fraud. This isn't fraud. This is just how this election is because of these times we're living in. Blame it on 2020.
The year 2020, right? Whatever. Well, they can do that. I don't care. You know, I couldn't care less what they say it was. I couldn't care less if they ran a psyops operation on us. All I care about is uprooting what happened. That's all I want to do. We've got to find out what happened, because we all believe Donald Trump won this election. We all believe that he won it handily. We all believe common sense says that there is no way a candidate who did not even have a bond with his voters, a candidate who is a non-entity, a candidate who is an empty vessel, a candidate who was simply a faceless, nameless guy who's never won an election on his own other than the Senate, is going to get more votes than anybody else in history? We don't believe it. With a guy drawing 55,000 people at rallies, 37,000 people, with a guy that's in a basement, maybe drawing 20 people in their cars to honk horns. And then there's the other evidence that we had, the common sense evidence. So, you know, whether they ran their little operation here to tell us that no matter what it looks like on election night, Biden's going to win, we need to get to the bottom of it. For all of the reasons that I have stated, today. I don't want to have to repeat everything, every phone call I get here. But this is about preserving the Constitution. It's about preserving the institutions and traditions that define the United States of America from every other country on earth. It's about making sure we do not descend to banana republic status. We are damn close. There was no reason on earth for early voting and mail-in voting to have not been counted by election night, for example. There's no earthly reason. We have to wait till Friday to count mail-in ballots. There's no... The mail-in ballot, anyway, that was the beginning of the end of all of this. They scare the hell out of everybody with COVID. They get everybody convinced you can't go to your polling place and vote without dying or running the risk of dying. So we come in with mail-in ballots, and then some of us end up criticizing mail-in ballots, and that ends up being a negative because a lot of people ended up liking the option of mail-in ballots, but they didn't have to show any ID. They didn't have to show a signature. The signatures didn't have to match. They didn't have to be in by Election Day. We're saying, what the hell? And in criticizing mail-in ballots, some people say, well, we like mail-in ballots, so screw you. So I was told every time you criticize mail-in ballots, you're just sending more people to use them. I said, oh, well, that's not good. This is not. But that's where all this happened. When you don't have to have any ID. No, I'm not criticizing absentee. Absentee, you've got to prove who you are. You don't with mail-in. What is this business about you don't have to count them by election night? When somebody said, as our last caller says, you're going to think you're winning on election night, but then after they count the mail-in ballots, that's where Trump's going to. Why do we wait until after election night to count the mail-in ballots when the mail-in ballots ostensibly are arriving before election day ballots? Oh, that's right, because they didn't have to arrive by Election Day. Why was that the case? Well, because not everybody can count on the Postal Service to do it right. And so we have to give some leeway. So we said as long as the ballots are in by Friday in one place or Saturday in another place, then we'll go ahead and count it. You think that isn't a recipe for the disaster that we're in the middle of here? Mail-in ballot. Why do you think mail-in ballots were not part of the original setup? It's just too great an opportunity for fraud. So this has to be run down, tracked down. It has to be discovered what happened. In a lot of states, few states, they were able to count the mail-in ballots by election night. They did it in Florida. They did it in Texas. They did it in a whole bunch of well-run Republican states. Why can't they do this in Pennsylvania? Why couldn't they do it in Wisconsin? Why couldn't they do it in Michigan? Why were we waiting until Saturday? It was ridiculous for the mail-in ballots to be counted. We all know why. They were determining how many they needed. Democrat cities, they purposely were holding back counting the early voting and the mail-in votes in order to know how much they would need to find in order to win. There's no other explanation for this. But I can say that all day long, and it doesn't make it true. That's why we need a czar. That's why we need somebody to officially run down every aspect of this. Let me go through a couple of things. Joel Pollack, Breitbart, and a tweet. Democrats had to change voting rules. They had to censor the president, Twitter and Facebook. They had to kick people off social media. They had to modify search algorithms, i.e. Google. They had to terrorize cities, Portland, Seattle, looting and all that. They had to ban Trump rallies. They had to spend billions of dollars. They had to raise the dead and have them vote, and they still barely pulled this off. Donald Trump is a legend, and deservedly so. The thing that galls me, and it's going to always gall me, is that there are Republicans who are okay with this. There are Republicans okay with what the Democrats did to change voting rules, to censor the president, kick people off social media, to modify search algorithms on Google to terrorize cities, spend billions of dollars, have the dead vote. The Republicans are okay with this. And the process, they have given election fraud their blessing. Well, yeah, the never-Trumpers, but not just them. Why do you think, seriously now, why do you think Trump was able to take over the Republican Party so quickly? Do you realize today's Republican voter has nothing much in common with the Republican Party that elected George W. Bush? It may be the same people in some overlap, but they're vastly different the way they look at things. And here, I saw somebody, it was Molly Hemingway, who tweeted, and I don't have it in front of me, but she raised an important, can you imagine if George W. Bush, okay, we can all accept that he doesn't like Trump, fine. But if, during this election cycle, if George W. Bush had just come out in favor of some of the Senate candidates, if George W. Bush had just voiced support for some Republicans running for office, can you imagine what difference it might have made? I don't know. Her point is that here's an ex-president, a former president, two-term Republican Party who's not saying a thing throughout these 4 years or this campaign. And she raised the question, can you imagine what kind of difference there might have been had George W. Bush weighed in, say, in the Georgia Senate races or some of the others? And the Bush family has been tremendous to me, as I have noted over the years. They have been great to me. They have given me access to information and things. I mean, they've just been really great people to me. George H.W. Bush, George W. They've all been great. So it's tough to join the criticism trail. I'm not immune to it, but it is an interesting question. But I raise it, and I remind you of it simply to point out how little assistance Trump got from anybody in the Republican Party. And in fact, he was attacked by people in the Republican Party. And now let me find this thing on Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney has been asked to lead Health and Human Services in the Biden administration. This is the guy that gave us Obamacare. Remember, he wrote Obamacare as Massachusetts healthcare law. Mitt Romney has been asked to lead Health and Human Services in the Biden administration. I don't know if he's going to take it. Biden advisors expect that Romney will be tasked with making the national healthcare system more affordable without legislation that modifies the Affordable Care Act. Stories in the Buffalo Chronicle. I don't see in this story whether Romney has accepted the offer or not, but it wouldn't surprise me if he did.
Rush. With this, we'll be right back, and we'll also resume on the phones with your calls, so hang on. Here is the mayor, by the way, of Philadelphia. His name is Jim Kenney, and he just spoke mere moments ago.
While some, including the president, continue to spew baseless claims of fraud, claims for which his team has not produced one iota of evidence, what we have seen here in Philadelphia is democracy, pure and simple. Our founding fathers, who conceived this system just a 15-minute walk down the street, I know would be proud. 233 years after the Constitutional Convention, we stand at this convention center and proclaim the system still works, the people have spoken, and God willing, we will have a peaceful transition to power in January.
I'm not trying to make you mad, folks, but that's what the mayor of Philadelphia is saying. They're in the process of stealing an election. They stand there and say that it would make the founding fathers proud. In Nevada, the verified Twitter account, Nevada GOP, our lawyers just sent a criminal referral to the Attorney General, William Barr, regarding at least 3,062 instances of voter fraud. We expect that number to grow substantially. Thousands of people have been identified who appear to have violated the law by casting ballots after they moved away from Nevada. I don't think that's where the fraud is. I think there's ample fraud in the dead voting, but there's not 700,000 ballots of fraud with that kind of deal. I'll tell you where this is going to be discovered if it's discovered. Mail-in ballots. Mail-in ballots is where this is all happening. And the mail-in ballots exist because of COVID-19. COVID hits, and the Democrats immediately saw an opportunity. It's too scary. It's too dangerous. It's too risky to show up on Election Day at the polls. We're going to devise a way where you can vote in complete safety. We're going to have mail-in ballots. You're not going to have to prove who you are. You're not going to have to prove where you are. You have to prove anything. We're going to send you a mail-in ballot if you want it, and then you can vote and mail it in. That's where all this is, folks. If you ask me, my own humble opinion, that's where all of this is. Digging it out, this is where you're going to have to look. Now, this piece from Breitbart, Hans von Spakovsky, 120,000 straight vote dump for Biden is not possible. Vote dumps. This is bags, buckets, whatever, of votes that show up while we are asleep to the tune of 120,000, which are entirely for Vice President Joe Biden, cannot be credible. Hans von Spakovsky is manager of the Heritage Foundation's Election Law Reform Initiative.
We continue to drive change in the way we buy presents and gifts for people. And as you embark on your online shopping this season, do something smart for yourself, and that is protect your online identity. Get LifeLock protection. LifeLock's online identity theft protection is second to none. There is nobody even close. From the minute you sign up with LifeLock, their online monitoring systems go to work looking for evidence that your information has fallen into the wrong hands. You say, how can it happen that fast? It takes about a couple weeks. It takes a couple weeks for you to create an online, maybe even less, to create an online pattern that they can constantly measure against. And they're not chasing you down by name, and they're not watching individual purchase. They're watching patterns. And they see something outside the pattern, they ask you if you're the reason something outside the pattern's happened. That's how they do it, and it's brilliant. From the minute you sign up, they're tracking you to find out, to protect you, to see if people have invaded your online space. It can happen when a data breach occurs. Somebody plants malware on your phone or laptop, opens a new account in your name you're not aware of. Now, look, folks, no one company can prevent all identity theft, but LifeLock systems are brilliant at detecting unusual activity and reporting it to you quickly. Sign up today at lifelock.com, 800-440-4833 if you want to phone them. Either way, use my name, save 25% off the plan you choose. Lifelock.com or 800-440-4833. Use my name as the offer code. Costa Mesa, California. Mike, you're next. Great to have you. Hi.
How you doing, Rush? God bless you in my prayers.
Thank you very much, sir.
I disagree with Sherman. I'm pissed off, Rush. I am pissed at the rule of law. The Constitution is just being totally ignored and stepped on. I am pissed off. Where is Bill Barr? Is he on vacation already? Thanksgiving vacation? Where's the Justice Department? Where's the FBI? I'm pissed. I'm pissed that we have a president who was firmly reelected in this country, and people are breaking the law to not have him elected. My son, Rush Baby, he's 42 now, called me Friday, and I told him, don't listen to the media all weekend, number one. And number two, if the Constitution and the rule of law are upheld the way it should be, then President Trump will be elected president. I'm pissed.
Well, the Constitution and rule of law must be upheld, and I think you're right. You're saying if the Constitution and rule of law are upheld, Trump will be elected. This stuff will all be shown to be BS. Is that what your point is?
Yes, sir.
And you're mad that we have to go through. You're mad the Democrats doing it. Mad the Democrats get away with it. And mad people aren't doing anything to stop them.
That's right. Where is Bill Barr, Rush? I haven't heard a word from him. Doesn't the Justice Department have something to do with the federal law, federal elections? Where is he? Where's he?
I hear you. I've been asking myself, where the hell's John Durham?
I don't care about Durham. He's investigating something from a year and a half ago. I want to know where Bill Barr is today in this election fraud. Where's the Justice Department? Trump, I'm sorry. If Trump is reelected, he's got to get rid of Bill Barr. Because when you need people that need to be behind you when you really need them, we as American people are behind Trump. I think he's going to be more of a powerful man, whether he's reelected or not, than ever. Because we are pissed out here.
Well, look, you bring up, whether he's reelected or not. And that does invite some speculation on my part. However this ends up, you all have to know Donald Trump isn't going anywhere. I don't know what he's going to do, but he's not going to go. He's just not going to slink away. He's not going to go back, run the Trump organization, and reconstitute the TV show The Apprentice, and go back to that. There's way too much out there that he would want to do, can do, and it would be oriented toward keeping America great, maintaining his agenda and doing what he can to protect it. I have no doubt that Trump is devoted to his agenda, however he must, to protect it. But I hear you, Mike. Look, I know everybody's mad. And frustrated and want fast action on this to deal with it. Quick timeout. We'll be right back, folks. Hang on.
Biden carried Georgia. The reason he carried that district, they're doing everything. Got James Clyburn, all these other congressional black Caucasian guys on TV. They're doing everything they can to knock down the idea that Trump had a great pro-Trump minority turnout. He did. Folks, they're in the process of erasing the facts of this election and hiding the truth. So it's going to take a while. Got to get Abbott Davidson not letting the Republicans into these counting facilities. We're only 3 days into this, folks. Al Gore spent 37 days in one state. Florida, 37 days trying to overturn that state. There's a whole lot more states here. This isn't going to get resolved today or over this weekend. Back to the phones, open line Friday. Michael in Cleveland. Welcome, sir. Great to have you.
Hey, Rush. Thanks for taking my call. Hey, maybe I need to adjust a little bit as the show's gone on. I did feel a little bit at the beginning of the show that you were just sort of reporting facts, and I don't hear the anger in your voice that I did with the Russia collusion. And I don't know if we're all just getting beat down a little bit and starting to accept things, but during the Russian collusion case, you were furious, and now they've stolen an election, and I feel like we're more just kind of reporting facts. And I'm just wondering how things are going. If it's time for us to worry at this point. I mean, they have pop culture, they have the media, they have the news. It looks like they're going to have Fox News now.
None of that's new. None of the pop culture, education, none of that's new. They've had that stuff for years and years and years.
Well, that I'm aware of, but as things have progressed, they've now basically stolen an election at this point. And I feel like a lot of the talking heads are like, well, this is...
It's not the first election that they've... It's not the first election... The whole Russian thing, 2016, was about trying to steal that election. They were trying to reverse the results of it. This is what they do. They tried to steal the Florida election in 2000, and they got beat at it. This is what they do. They lose elections, and every damn one of them they refuse to accept. They're the ones that do not engage in peaceful transitions of power, while accusing Trump and the rest of us of the exact same thing.
Well, and I agree with that. And I think what's happening, and I know that you are in touch with your audience probably more than anybody, and I know that you are aware of the anger out there, but I liken it to the analogy that you make about Democrats being mad that the Democrat populace has been promised this and promised that and promised this and promised that. Nothing ever happens, and then the populace is ready to explode. I think that's sort of where a lot of us feel like out in the middle of America. Comey's not in jail, Clapper's not in jail, Brennan's not in jail, Hillary's not in jail. They just stole an election. They keep promising, we're going to do it, we're going to do it, we're going to do it. It's not happening. It's not happening.
I hate, you call here and you have been accusatory of me. I'm not saying that to you. I've got some buttons here that I never know which ones to push. I was not saying damn it to you. I turned my microphone off and said damn it. Didn't mean to. Just 2 days ago, I was making the point that nobody's in jail. Comey, none of these people. Strzok, Smirk, they're not in jail. They're still on CNN getting paid to lie. I'm just as livid about all this as you people are, if not more so. And I know you can't listen to every...
Right back.
I think what everybody is getting confused about, or why everybody thinks that I acted like this was over, I talked about Jason Whitlock's column at Outkick.com. And Jason Whitlock's, in making the point that he was making, I probably sounded like he sounds, like he thinks it's over. And I was just making the point, I was reflecting his point, which is that he is disappointed and surprised. He said that this election is not about Democrat, Republican, it's about love and hate. And love lost. That's his word, not mine. I'm simply telling people what he said. And he points out that Trump's voters love him. They love him unconditionally. They love Trump no matter what. They went to the end of the earth for Trump. They went to rallies. They put themselves through arduous circumstances to attend rallies. They went to cold weather. They left their jobs. They did everything they could because they love Donald Trump. They even turned out in greater numbers in 2020 than they did in 2016. But Whitlock said, not me, Whitlock said that the hate for Trump beat him. And I'm simply quoting the Whitlock piece. He was disappointed. He's acting like maybe he thinks it's over. I should have specified that I'm quoting Whitlock with every sentence that I was actually quoting or discussing. But his point was that Biden didn't win anything, that hate did. Hate for Trump. And he was expressing disappointment that in the United States of America, hatred overcame love. He thought it'd be just the exact opposite. Now, my point is hatred has not hatred is driving the fraud. Hatred is driving the cheating. Hatred, the unwillingness to accept Trump as a winner, is driving all of this chicanery the Democrats are engaging in. It is hate that is driving it. I understand Whitlock's point. And in quoting his piece and talking about it, people might have heard me say that I was agreeing with him that it's over. I was just talking about his point he was making. It's all it was. I am by no means not mad. I'm by no means ambivalent about this. I'm as frustrated about this as the Russian hoax and all this other stuff because it never ends. It just keeps going. What really irritates me more than anything is that people vote for it. Folks, I really hoped that after 5 months of American leftists burning down American cities, destroying American businesses, destroying private property, that the people of this country would once and for all see who they are and vote against them. That's what I was hoping. I was hoping they'd finally expose themselves. You know, all this stuff that happened after COVID-19 hits and the lockdown hits, and then here comes these 7 blue states and cities locking down, shutting down, the looting, the rioting, the fires, the explosions in New York, Chicago, Seattle, where they took over part of downtown Seattle literally took over other people's private property. This has got to open people's eyes. It's got to alert people what we are up against. It's got to alert people the Democrat Party is. And I don't know if it did or not, because there's too much damn vote fraud in these 4 states. We just don't know. Common sense would tell you the American people do not support this stuff. This stuff is not the majority. It's not how they want their country to operate and proceed. Anyway, I appreciate the call, Michael. I got to go. Quick time out. We'll be back and continue after this. Greetings. Welcome back. Rush Limbaugh here on the Cutting Edge Societal Evolution. Democrats, this is a tweet from Joel Pollack, who, I don't know if he's still at Breitbart or not, but this is his tweet. Democrats filed 300 lawsuits to challenge election laws and procedures, which is partly why we have this vote by mail miss, meaning the Democrats did this before the election. They filed 300 lawsuits to challenge existing election law and procedure, and I don't know that anybody knew they were doing it. They had their day in court. Now, Pollack's point is it's time Trump got his. They did this way in advance. A lot of you thought the Trump team was going to do something like this way in advance. And they may have, I don't know, but Joel Pollack is suggesting the Democrats did. That he makes the great point here that, once again, Trump is standing for the rule of law. The media and the Democrats are standing for the exact opposite. They're trying to subvert it. Here's Lana in St. Augustine, Florida. Great to have you with us. Hello.
Hi, Rush. God bless you. My comment is Joe Biden told us what happened on October 24th. It's probably the only time he has spoken the truth in his entire political career. He said, quote, "We have put together the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the whole of American history."
Yeah, you know what he meant. What do you think he meant?
I think he meant what was going on here, that Obama's staying in Washington, and the plan started immediately when Trump won. And all this has been going on for 4 years, and all this going on with dumping ballots back, stamping them by hand, and everything that's going on now, going to the courts ahead of time, like you just mentioned. This has been going on for 4 years, and I think he finally told the truth about what was going on.
So you think that Biden was admitting that and bragging about the voter fraud organization they had put together in order to steal the election?
Exactly. That's exactly what I think.
Interesting. Very interesting. Okay, well, thank you, Lana. I appreciate the call. Some other news out there. Project Veritas, I mentioned this yesterday, released an undercover video of a Pennsylvania Postal Service whistleblower who said that ballots that are coming in today, tomorrow, yesterday, they're all supposed to be postmarked on November 3rd. They still want us to pick up ballots tomorrow, which is Friday the 6th, is today. And by coincidence, Biden gained 23,000 votes on the very day the whistleblower mentioned. Biden picks up 23,000 votes overnight after this whistleblower admits that his bosses
not at your phone. Broadcast hour remaining. And again, just a reminder, this is treatment week for me. Moved it back a week so I could be here during the election. So we head off later today. And normally during treatment week, I try to get back at least one day. And I've been fairly fortunate to be able to do that. But it may not be the case this week, so I just want to let you know in advance. This may be one of those where I'll be out the whole week. Odds are, based on previous experience. If not, though, if I'm able to get in here and be cogent and know where I am, then I'll of course do so. But otherwise, we got it covered with Mark Stein. Who don't need to know the days. Who are they? Todd Herman and Stein and Ken Matthews. Those are them. Yeah, okay. Sidney Powell. You know, when I floated my idea earlier today that we need a czar running things, let me see if I can explain that again a little bit better. It's not that difficult a concept, but I'm thinking, think Mueller investigation only legit. And think Mueller except somebody that knows what they're doing, not just a figurehead that's checked out and like Biden doesn't know where he is half the time. A legitimate constitutional scholar, legitimate constitutional lawyer, somebody who has been practicing, somebody from a highly reputable firm, somebody with impeccable credentials to lead this investigation of the 2020 presidential election. There are countless examples of questionable ballots, questionable people voting dead or alive. There's all kinds of information out there that needs to be chased down. So this person would not only head the effort and be the figurehead, but would be actively involved, not somebody who just gets a report every day and then reads the report somebody else wrote. This would be somebody actively involved, somebody cogent, somebody coherent, somebody who could lead the effort and then hires, and this would take money, I understand, and it's not mine that I'm offering up. This has got to come from the people doing the investigating. It'd be the Trump campaign or some other entity. But this person would then hire the team of investigators who would go out and make the case, do whatever they could to find the truth. And they would have to start, pardon the clearing of the throat, they'd have to start with all of the stories, all of the anecdotal stories and the anecdotal evidence. And let me define, I keep assuming everybody knows what this is. We always discount anecdotal evidence. I know you hear us discount, you hear me discount it. Anecdotal is, of course, the root word is anecdote, people telling a story. So you have somebody that nobody knows who saw something screwy going on with a ballot, say, in Pennsylvania, and they either tweet it or they call a talk show. Hey, I saw this. Okay, that's an anecdotal bit of evidence, which means it isn't evidence. It's somebody telling a story. And it could be true. It could be made up. You don't know if you don't know the person telling the story. And that's why, for me, as a talk show host, I don't like taking those calls because you can't confirm them. And I don't want to put misinformation on the air. And anybody can call here and say anything. It's impossible to track it down. And I don't want to do a talk show where boy, did you hear the guy that called and said, if it's not true, then it's harmful to me. It's not that it doesn't matter. It's harmful if it isn't true. I don't want to mislead anybody. So I'm not in terms of what I do as the leading talk show host in the world, I'm not interested in anecdotal anything except for its value. And its value doesn't exist to me here. Now, there is value in this evidence as told to an elections czar, because that's all they're going to have to work with. They got to track it down. They've got the wheat from the chaff separated. And there's going to be a lot of lying. There's going to be a lot of people telling a lot of things that aren't true. There's already massive lies out there being made by people who are believed by certain people in our country. There's this big story that Trump ran a sting. Have you heard this one? Trump ran a brilliant sting operation waiting to unveil it, that every ballot in certain states has a secret watermark on it. Have you heard that one? Well, stupidity. You know how many people believed it? Well, this is why this stuff is dangerous. You get people calling a talk show telling stuff like this, and if the host is not informed and hadn't heard of this, the host go, wow, man, that is cool, and you're off and running with a bunch of BS. So the investigator, the czar, would have to wade through all of that and find out which of it is BS and which of it is legit. And believe me, there's going to be a lot of BS because everybody wants to get noticed and everybody wants to say they mattered and everybody wants to say they had a role in it. Or there are going to be people on the left who are going to want to embarrass us. They're going to want us to accept and believe some really stupid stuff so that we look like a bunch of conspiracy theories. This is why whoever does this has got to be brilliant. Has to be patient, has to have an army or a team that can track this stuff down and not say anything about it to the American people until they have run it down. And everything has to be looked at in terms of constitutionality, because that's what's at stake here, folks, in all of this. Yeah, we want to save the election for DJ Trump. Yep. We want this to get done right. We want Trump to get what he earned, the presidency and a second term. But more importantly, the integrity of the process must be maintained in the eyes of as many millions of Americans as possible. The integrity of the electoral system must be established. If it isn't, nobody's going to believe it ever again. And you want to talk about turnout, you want to talk about the moment people start thinking that their vote really doesn't matter, then you're going to see people abandon elections like you've never seen it before. It's just too important here that the integrity, that the Constitution, that the rule of law, that all of this be affirmed. And for that to happen, this election must be investigated. Every lead must be tracked down. Every reported problem should be investigated, as long as it takes. There should not be a time limit. There should not be a hurry. I mean, a reasonable time. Yeah, but we shouldn't have to get this done by the end of next week, for example. There's no reason for that. The next president's not inaugurated till next January. The next Congress is not seated till next January. We're going to have runoff elections in January to 2 Senate seats in Georgia. There doesn't need to be a hurry. Al Gore got 37 days to try to overturn things in one state, 3 counties, basically, of one state. Now, I maintain that if there was no fraud, the Democrats would invite Republicans to examine every aspect of the process and be done with it. Now, the Democrats say, we're not going to do that. They're going to come in here and plant evidence. No, we're not going to plant evidence. But I can see them saying that. But I still believe if there was no fraud, the Democrats would be a little bit more solicitous towards us looking at the process. I would think they would want us to look like fools. I would think they would want us to look like kooks. What better way to let us see their legitimate process? What better way? If there's massive fraud, if there is massive fraud, there'll be a campaign to call the election. Now, sorry, that's what's happening now. Sidney Powell claims 450,000 ballots that voted only for Biden. The left were left blank. Attorney Sidney Powell claims that her team has found 450,000 ballots with only votes for Joe Biden and no down-ballot selections made. Sidney Powell suggests this number of single-vote ballots is suspect and indicative in part of abject fraud that she says flipped the election to Biden. Let me tell you, 450,000 ballots that only vote for Joe Biden, that's not suspicious. That is fraudulent. That doesn't. How can that be? I'll tell you how it can be. They only cared about the presidential race. They only filled out ballots with Biden's name because that's all that mattered. Sidney Powell, the attorney for Michael Flynn, she has been very vocal about the need to challenge the results of the general election, which she contends is rife with evidence of a massive and coordinated effort to steal the election by efforts to delegitimize and destroy votes for Trump and to manufacture votes for Biden. She says they have done it in every way imaginable. They've had dead people vote in massive numbers to absolutely fraudulently creating ballots that exist only voting for Biden. So we've identified 450,000 ballots in the key states that miraculously only have a mark for Joe Biden. She said this on the TV show of Maria Bartiromo. Sidney Powell pointed to Florida. Things were done right. They counted all the ballots on election night, including these precious mail-in ballots, the way the rest of the country should have. She maintains that malicious actors used an algorithm to calculate the votes they would need to flip, and that they used computers to flip those votes from Trump to Biden and from other candidates to their competitors. Also, it wasn't just President Trump. There were many people affected by this, she said. We've got to fight tooth and nail in federal court to expose this abject fraud and the conspiracy behind it and get a recount and audits in every place it is needed, which is, frankly, most of the country. Folks, that is a stunning number of ballots. 450,000 miraculously only have one name on them. Here's some other statistics from Miranda Devine at the New York Post. There are 5 swing states that are within 1%. And every damn one of them has Joe Biden in the lead. In Georgia, Biden was ahead last night by just 10,352 votes. For how long was he behind in Georgia until they found a way to move him past it? In Arizona, Biden was ahead by 19,438 votes. In Wisconsin, he was ahead by 20,540. Pennsylvania ahead by 43,251 after being up 800,000 or 750,000. In Nevada, Biden was up by 31,300 or 464 votes. It is not outlandish or unprecedented to accept the possibility that at least some of those margins may be erroneous, whether through human error or indeed fraud. Look, folks, it is entirely possible that all of this may not amount to much of anything at all. But it has to be investigated. It has to be examined. Because there are 71 million people who voted for Trump who are going to think the election was stolen, and I think they're right, but you can't have that many people, 71 million, thinking the presidential election system in America is so tainted that it can be stolen from somebody who got 71 million votes. You can say goodbye to people participating in the process, which the Democrats would absolutely love. Trump said himself over the weekend, this is no longer about any single election. This is about the integrity of our entire election process. And that is bingo. That is right on the money. Whatever comes of the allegations, nothing is more important than these 2 Georgia U.S. Senate runoffs. That's control of the Senate right there. And does anybody think the Democrats in Georgia are going to let these Senate seats go to the Republicans? I mean, if that's the attitude that we have, then what does it say about our perception of the system already?
And they're going to be assisted in this by people like Mitt Romney, Ben Sass, These guys have never liked Trump. They don't like Trump now. They're just as eager for Trump to bite it as they always have been. Pat Toomey in Pennsylvania, he has already abandoned Trump. You've got the never-Trumpers, the Jonah Goldbergs and the Bill Kristols and that bunch. And they're being joined by others now at National Review and others who are finally deciding, you know what? It's not worth it anymore. It's not worth it trying to prop Trump up. It just isn't. More and more people are joining the abandoned on the Republican side. This is all about saving the Washington establishment. It's all about making sure that Trump does not succeed in getting reelected and continuing to drain the swamp and continuing to empower you, the people who make this country work. The subtext of this is that they love the idea of junking Trump, these Republicans. We know the Democrats do. But I'm talking about the Republican establishment. They love the idea of junking Trump and holding the Senate. They are having orgasms over that. And they're not giving Trump credit for it. No, Trump had nothing to do with holding the Senate. No, they did that on their own, they're saying. They're not giving Trump credit for any of the minority vote that came to the Republican Party, but it's all him. So is 50 seats in the House, 50-50. Picking up enough seats in the House to be 50-50. Holding the Senate, that is all Trump. Not to them. They're going to ignore that Trump had anything to do with it. They're going to disabuse the idea that Trump had anything to do with it. And what they're looking at is 2024. Now, I'll throw you two names out there. There are two names that they think can capture you. You are MAGA. You are Make America Great Again. You're the Trump base. They think you'll go for Marco Rubio or Nikki Haley. 2024. It may disappoint you, but they think you're not going to go anywhere but them. They think you'll never sit it out. They think you love America too much, and whoever is nominated in 2024, that you'll end up, you MAGA people, you Trump supporters will end up supporting, and it could be two names, there could be others in the list too, but right now Marco Rubio and Nikki Haley are at the top of the list. The one person they're forgetting about in 2024, who do you think, who they're forgetting in 2024? Donald J. Trump. If this thing goes the way these people in the drive-bys are trying to tell you it's going to go, in 2024, say hello to Donald J. Trump seeking the nomination again. And who do you think is going to get it if Donald J. Trump seeks it in 2024? Donald J. Trump is going to get it if he seeks it again. That's the one thing, and I'm sure they're factoring it, trying to find a way to deal with it. Now, the Democrats are watching all this. The Democrats see what the Republican establishment is doing.
It was Ohio.
And they like it. They like all this feuding.
Time, Rush. So I was wondering, I know you spoke of William Buckley in the past as helping you get your career started and get you on the path that you're on now. I'm just wondering what you think he would think of this presidency and this travesty of an election. You know, what do you think his thoughts would be on this?
I'll
hang up and listen, though.
Okay,
all
right. He's asking me what I think William F. Buckley would think of the Trump presidency. Folks, this is going to be a wild guess. It will be a guess informed by intelligence, guided by experience, admittedly. And what he would think of the... well, I know what he thinks of this election mess. I'm pretty confident in believing that he would think that this is highly suspicious. He'd be worried about it. In Buckley's day, going back now to the 40s, 50s, the 50s on through the 70s, it was the unions that did all of this stuff that the Democrats are now doing at the State House. It was the unions where all of this chicanery happened, and he was. I can remember being at his home, his Masonette on Park Avenue, 73rd Street, watching election returns. And I remember getting real frustrated because he was just pessimistic as hell. And I said, Bill, what are we even doing here? If you don't think, hey, it's the unions. It's the unions. We can't overcome the way the unions are going to cheat this. We just can't So he was well aware of the Democrats and their abilities. What he would think of Trump. Look, folks, this is a wild guess. William F. Buckley was an anomaly. He was a member in good standing of the New York City elite, but he was conservative. He was respected and adored by the New York liberal elite, and he never once had to compromise his beliefs to do it. He didn't have to give them a thing. He didn't have to change one thing that he believed. What he would think of Trump as president, I think would probably surprise you. I think he would have loved it. Remember, William F. Buckley was the guy who said he would rather be governed by the first 1,200 names in the Boston phone book than by the faculty at Harvard. Meaning he would much rather be governed by a bunch of average, ordinary people and a bunch of elite academics, of which he was one. He was an elite academic. He was an elite, unique mind. He was brilliant. He was hilarious. He was sardonic. He was sarcastic. He was a conservative. And he would have had a twinkle in his eye about Trump and that Trump had won and had beaten those people. He would not have had this phony attitude that Trump's attitudes embarrassed him. He might have, I don't know, tweeting didn't exist before Mr. Buckley.
/Rush. See, if you put the /Rush in there, you'll save some money. 50%, in fact. 50% off the regular price. They will ship you the legacy box. It's shielded and protected so that what you put in it doesn't get damaged. They ship you the legacy box. You put all the cassettes, all the film reels, all the photos, whatever you've got, you put it in that box and you send it back to them. And in 2 weeks' time, they'll have it transferred however you want it. Cloud file, DVD, thumb drive, you name it. LegacyBox.com/rush is the name of the website. I'm looking at the clock. Yeah, there's not enough time to be fair with this caller. We do have other things here in the stack. I'll tell you what. Mike in Holly Hill, Florida. I want you to hold. You're the next caller. He's got an open line Friday question for me, and then he wants to discuss some of the stuff going on. Hillary and Biden. He's not disagreeing with me on my. He's not disagreeing with the previous caller. Biden said, we've got the most perfect voter fraud set up ever. I think what Biden meant by that was they've got the best system to catch people engaging. I don't think he was admitting they were going to do it. The GOP, I'm just going to read a little blurb here as I got it. The GOP just filed a lawsuit in Pennsylvania to block all late ballots. That's all I know. I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know what specifics are involved. And when it says GOP, I'm not even sure what that is, given so much of the GOP is anti-Trump. So we have to wait and see. But there has been a lawsuit filed to block all late ballots in Pennsylvania. If that succeeds or succeeded, do you realize how many of those 700,000 votes that have gone to Biden might not be valid if the lawsuit would prevail? And that, of course, is a wild card. Here is Mike in Holly Hill, Florida. I'm glad you waited. Great to have you on the program, sir. Hello.
Thanks, Rush. Dittos. Great to talk with you.
Thank you very much.
We pray for you every day, and we thank God for you every day.
I appreciate that.
Open Line Friday question.
Yeah.
You never say it, and I've always wondered about it. You love to fly. You love airplanes, and you know everything there is to know about them, sounds like. But do you ever fly yourself? Are you the pilot?
Nope.
Never. You never wanted to?
Nope. Sometimes the number 2 seat, but never in the number 1 seat. No, not. There was a time where I really did want to learn to fly back when I was in my late teens. And then radio hit, and I forgot all about learning to fly and everything else. I just became totally focused on radio. But nope, I'm content. I'm content to ride in it. I'm content to know how it works. I'm content to know how I think if something happened, I could go up there and save it. But do I actually fly it? No.
Wow. Well, that has just been a point of curiosity for me for a long time, and I'm glad I finally got through.
Thank you, sir.
The question.
Well, there you have the answer.
I do. Thank you so much. Now, my other point is that Hillary telegraphed this whole business. She told Joe Biden just, 4 weeks ago or less, to Joe, don't concede. Don't concede, no matter what.
What do you think she meant by that?
Oh, maybe she just had an inside track on what was happening. Maybe she just figured out that they were going to solve all these votes in there, and that he couldn't lose because they had it. They were.
You know, I know it looks that way, but I think with Mrs. Clinton, you have to first realize that everything's about her. In her life, and even, advising Biden, it's all about her. What
the Constitution
really
of the United States, as our fathers made it inviolate. For those of you in Rio Linda, it means we can't violate it. It means we cannot abandon it. It has nothing to do with it being purple. We cannot abandon it. The people of the United States are the rightful masters of both Congress and the courts. Not to overthrow the Constitution, but to overthrow the men who pervert the Constitution. Who said that? Abraham Lincoln. And all he did was preserve the Union by believing the Constitution was inviolate. Our safety, our liberty, depends upon preserving the Constitution of the United States as our fathers, founding fathers, made it inviolate. The people of the United States are the rightful masters of both Congress and the courts. Not to overthrow the Constitution, but to overthrow the men who pervert the Constitution. That's what this effort should be focused on. Overthrowing the men who pervert the Constitution. Overthrowing the people, in other words, who are ignoring it, who are trampling on it, who are running the risk of ruining it. Now, it's going to take time, folks. Tracking down all of these reports, the anecdotal evidence, if you will, tracking it all down, and then getting sworn declarations. You can't just say, hey, I got this guy over here who said, this guy's got to swear to it. All of these people with their anecdotal stories and evidence that they tweet or they email or what, you've got to get to them, and they have to swear that it's true. They have to sign declarations and affidavits. They have to subject themselves to perjury charges. That takes time. It requires interviews. It requires trying to find out who these people are and why they may be saying this. None of this is going to be easy. And the czar, that I have this imagination of sitting in position here overseeing all this, is exactly what the job is, overseeing all of this, overseeing all these actions, directing these actions, informing the people that work for the czar doing the investigations what needs to be done. Here the stuff needs to be tracked down. These are the people you need to find. These are the people who need to swear to what they're saying happened. And this is a lot of states. Now, this is already happening. There's not a czar per se, but this is already happening. And it takes time. I know you read about these examples on Twitter or Sidney Powell, 450,000 ballots with only Biden's name on them. And you say, well, Sidney Powell would never lie about it. Yeah, still has to be tracked down. Still has to be sworn to. Still has to be signed off on. Nobody's word is good, in other words. You've got to go through the process here. Here's another story that ran in, I think it's the American Thinker. Wait just a minute, it says here. Some very good news may be coming. Let me give you some pull quotes from this piece. Hey, guys, this thing is not only not over, it's scary for Biden. I mean, really scary. And most of all, the media know it. Thus, the rush to get everybody in line with the narrative that a 78-year-old early dementia former VP who couldn't even draw a crowd larger than a dozen just beat Donald Trump in a fair election? Process that for a moment. It's not possible. Start with Pennsylvania. Biden, as of this writing, is at 290 electoral votes. Pennsylvania is 20 of them. I read the Justice Alito opinion. It's pretty clear he wants the after election night at 8 p.m. votes separated for a reason. Well, Biden's going to lose at the Supreme Court if it goes there, and they know it. This guy is, he's confident that the Supreme Court would throw out those ballots that came in after 8 p.m. on election night. I'm not. But the writer here is. Okay, fine. We'll go with the writers for the sake of the interesting aspect. So Biden's going to lose at the Supreme Court, and they know it. 4 justices already said that the Pennsylvania Supreme Court cannot adjust voting rules. And they can't, folks. The state legislature is the only body empowered to change voting rules. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court can't do it. All they can do is weigh in on efforts that have been made, but they cannot do it themselves. Now we got a new justice, Justice Barrett, and she says that she's there to apply the rules in the Constitution. Okay. Well, what a bet that she does. If she does, and if the Supreme Court takes a case and if it goes there, and if you remove the after 8 p.m. ballots, then Biden loses those 20. This guy says Biden loses Pennsylvania if you take away the ballots that Alito wants set aside, that anything after 8 o'clock on election night is illegal. Pennsylvania Supreme Court said, no, it's not. We're going to allow them. The point is they can't make that rules change. Another pull quote. Excuse me. We have bloggers with lots of time on their hands. They're going through voter rolls, and they're showing that person after person who voted in a swing state also fought in the Civil War. Maybe fought in the War of 1812. It was funny at first, all these dead people voting, but then the overwhelming number of dead voters goes beyond humor. Now they're rubbing our faces in it. He says, I think Donald J. Trump has to swing one state. Not only is this thing not over, the Biden team must be sweating bullets. This is all his opinion. Voter fraud at a scale seemed like a really cool idea until Trump went to the mattresses. Now that he's fighting it out, one voter at a time, with the Supreme Court likely to create the starting point at Biden 270, Biden has everything to lose. No more truckloads of votes coming in. So every ballot Trump's team eliminates gets President-elect Biden one step closer to former VP Biden, who lives in a basement. Okay, so this is just a sample of some of the stuff that's out there. People are reading it. They're getting revved up and excited, and I don't blame you. But the real process is going to take some time. Eliminating Biden ballots is going to take time. It's not going to happen just because somebody says they saw something. And I'm not trying to be critical or mocking of anybody. Don't misunderstand. Here's another one. Top attorney Lynn Wood. This guy's a First Amendment lawyer, free speech. Listen, guy defended the Covington kids and got them huge settlement deals from CNN and other news organizations. And he is livid over what he's seen. First Amendment lawyer says they took a victory from Donald Trump and they called it a lie. This country is under attack. That's attorney Lynn, L-I-N, Lynn Wood, on why he's joined Trump's legal team. He spoke at a rally in Georgia on Saturday about why he joined the Trump team. He's fighting the Democrats, big media, big tech, as they attempt to steal the election for Biden. Here's how he began his speech. I was sitting around Tuesday night watching the election returns. I've loved politics all my life since I first voted in 1972. And I saw what I assumed was going to happen. I saw President Trump building up what I believe was going to be an almost historic landslide victory. And then all of a sudden, every network, including Fox, starts doing what they do best. They started lying to the American public, and they took a victory from Donald Trump, and they called it a lie. They took a defeat from Joe Biden and lied and said that he won. And they sent you to bed, turning off the count of the vote so you could wake up the next morning like I did and go, what the hell happened? What happened? When I was asked by President Trump to help him in Georgia, perhaps other places around the country, I said, yes, because there is a cloud over this country. And if we don't get it right, and if we don't figure out what happened that night, that cloud is going to get darker and darker until it turns into a storm cloud, and we're going to lose our freedom, folks. If we cannot have fair and open elections with integrity, where people trust the outcome, we have lost our freedom. So it's time to fight back. This is a constitutional crisis. If we don't fix it, if we don't find out what happened that night and get it right, we're going to lose our constitutional rights. 43 years of practicing law, I never dreamed the day would come where I would be in the United States of America and there would be censorship. If they take away your right to free speech, what are they going to take away next? And your right to free speech is voting for who you want to vote for. If they can change your vote, if they can cancel your vote out, you do not have free speech or free anything else. So Lynn Wood says, let's find out what happened. It's about truth versus lies. If you don't think this was planned, if you don't think this is all part of some big giant plan, you go ahead and enjoy losing your freedom under the Kamala Harris administration. And she's not going to be running the country. There are people who are going to be running the country who are rich. They're globalists. Some even don't live here. A lot of them are involved with foreign countries. She's a placeholder. Biden's a placeholder. It is time to tell the truth and be truthful and face the truth. Our country's under attack. This was nothing more than a revolution. They're trying to take away your rights. They're trying to take away your Constitution. They're trying to take away, ultimately, your freedom. Don't let them do it. Donald Trump is for the people, and that's why the people voted for him. Trump is troubled because he sees what's being done to the people. It's like Republicans should stand up for the president. I've watched him for 4 years. He's been out there fighting for the people. He's almost always fighting for himself. It's time for us to fight for him. That's Lynn Wood, well-known First Amendment lawyer, on Saturday in Georgia, explaining why he signed on to the Trump team.
People's property? You dare to say Fox News has a duty to call the election so that Trump's voters will not cause violence? Trump's voters are not violent. They haven't engaged in any violence. Another myth. Another cliche, another bigoted statement. What they really want, they want Rupert Murdoch to tell the people at Fox to call the race for Trump because they want total humiliation of Trump. They want the only network that gave Trump the time of day to turn on him. That's what they want. They're content. Oh, it would be the greatest day in the world if they could convince Rupert Murdoch to have somebody on Fox declare Trump the loser or Biden the winner, however they would do it. Back in just a moment. Hey, get this. The software used to tabulate the votes in one county, I think in Pennsylvania, sent 6,000 Trump votes to Biden. That's announced today by the GOP. Keep a sharp eye on this if you're going to pay attention to news later on in the afternoon. We got to go, folks, out of time. See you back here on Monday.
Welcome to today's edition of the Rush Limbaugh Show podcast.
I'm sorry, folks. I can't help it. I can't help when I see. I watch the drive-by media and the news outlets up there, and they say Biden is narrowing vote totals. Biden isn't narrowing anything. Democrat operatives are narrowing vote totals. Anybody doubt this? When you see Biden narrowing the gap in a state, Democrat operatives are narrowing the gap in a state.
Live from the Southern Command in sunny South Florida, it's Open Line Friday!
Man, oh man, oh man. Well, here we are. No place I'd rather be today than right here with you folks. 800-282-2882. No, I'm serious. No, I wouldn't rather be at home taking it easy. No way. Right here is where I want to be. Wrapping up yet another busy broadcast week. There wasn't any blue wave out there. Biden didn't lead any blue wave. Biden didn't campaign. Jason Whitlock has a fascinating piece. I saw he was interviewed by Tucker Carlson last night, and he made a point about this campaign, love versus hate. And it's a fascinating piece. And he's a little disappointed that hate overcame love. Well, here's his point. And I wasn't going to get into this now, but since I've mentioned it, I'll just give you the rough edges and we'll get into detail as the program unfolds. But Whitlock said that this was a contrast in America of love versus hate. And he started by saying Donald Trump's voters love him. It is pure. It's unabashed. It is total. Trump's voters literally love him. They love him for who he is. They love him for what he's done. They love him because he fights for them. They love him because he never gave up. They love him because he never wilted in 4 years of character assassinations. The bottom line, as far as Jason Whitlock is concerned, massive love. And he hoped that love would overcome and overpower hate. But he says it apparently didn't. Because the hatred for Donald Trump is what defeated him. He points out there isn't any love for Joe Biden. There isn't any connection. We all know this. Joe Biden doesn't have a connection with voters. People were not even voting for Joe Biden. We've been through this. They're voting for the guy with a D next to the name, but
in the most comfortable, luxurious sheets that you will ever own. Don't doubt me. There are so many people in this audience who love them and live by them, swear by them every night. Bold & Branch products made with a pure organic cotton. They make all of their products soft, and it's unique to this brand, this material, each of their products. So the sheets, they start out soft and comfortable, and they only get softer and more comfortable over time. Same true with their towels, the throw blankets, everything they make. So as you contemplate gift giving, think about Bold & Branch. Once you discover the luxury of this brand, you're going to want to share it with others. For some, it's become the favorite gift item to share with close friends and family. Every set of sheets that you purchase comes with a 30-night full money-back guarantee. That's how confident they are in your satisfaction. Online, boldandbranch.com, BOLLN branch.com. Use my name. Get the special holiday discount right now. One of the few times of the year you can get such a deal. Boldandbranch.com. Make sure to use my name for the promo code, that special discount. The phone lines are dropping. It's strange how that happens. Well, we had a guy up there who I told him to have him hang on, and the phone lines are dropping. He wanted to, there was some guy that called last week who said that I was not mad enough over what was happening. Like I was really, really mad over the coup and when they tried to steal the election from Trump. But this guy says, you don't sound nearly mad enough at the fact that they're trying to steal the election. And I wanted to talk to him because I didn't know what that meant. And he didn't hang on. So